The arrival. Zara Chen stepped off the teleportation pad, her heart racing as she took in the bustling atrium of Galactic Academy Station. The massive space station hung in orbit around a swerving gas giant, serving as a beacon of interspecies cooperation and education. Zara clutched her duffel bag tightly, fighting the urge to gape at the dizzying array of alien life forms surrounding her. Tentacled cephalons floated by on anti-gravity disks, their large eyes blinking in synchronization. Towering arboreans, their bark-like skin glistening under the artificial lights, lumbered past with data cubes clutched in their branch-like fingers. A group of iridescent luminae chattered excitedly, their bioluminescent patterns flickering rapidly as they conversed in their native light language. "Move it earther," growled a gravelly voice behind her. Zara stumbled forward as a massive reptilian creature shouldered past. The draconian scales gleamed a menacing obsidian, its yellow eyes narrowing as it regarded her with disdain. Sorry," Zara stammered, stepping aside. The draconian snorted, a puff of steam escaping its nostrils as it stomped away. Zara took a deep breath, steeling herself. She knew being one of the few humans at the academy wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to make the most of this opportunity. As Zara made her way through the crowded atrium, following the holographic arrows guiding new students to the orientation hall, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. She'd dreamed of studying at Galactic Academy ever since she'd learned of its existence. The chance to learn alongside beings from across the galaxy, to explore cutting-edge technology and ancient alien wisdom, it was almost too good to be true. The orientation hall was a vast amphitheater, its tiered seating filled with a kaleidoscope of alien species. Zara found an empty seat near the back, settling in next to a small, furry creature that resembled a cross between a lemur and a raccoon. The alien chittered nervously, its large eyes darting around the room. "Hi there," Zara said softly, offering a smile. "I'm Zara. Are you a first year too?" The creature blinked at her, then nodded. "Greetings, Zara of Earth. I am Kix of the Procyon system. Yes, this is my first cycle at the academy." Its voice was high-pitched but melodious. Before Zara could respond, a holographic figure materialized on the stage. The being was tall and willowy, with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. "Welcome, students of Galactic Academy." The figure's voice resonated throughout the hall. "I am Headmaster Zilvax. On behalf of the Intergalactic Council of Education, I bid you all a warm welcome to what we hope will be the most enlightening and transformative experience of your young lives." As the headmaster continued with his welcoming speech, Zara's attention was drawn to a commotion a few rows ahead. A group of draconians, the same species as the one who'd shoved her earlier, was snickering and jeering at a small, gelatinous creature seated nearby. The alien quivered, its translucent body rippling with what Zara assumed was distress. "Hey," Zara whispered to Kix, "what's going on over there? Why are they picking on that blob thing?" Kix's fur bristled. "That blob thing is an amorphon. They are known for their brilliant minds, but physically vulnerable. The Draconians, they often assert dominance over those they perceive as weak. It is an unfortunate dynamic." Zara frowned, a familiar anger bubbling up inside her. She'd dealt with bullies back on Earth, and it seemed some things were universal. As she watched, one of the Draconians flicked a small object at the amorphon, causing it to flinch and shrink in on itself. Before Zara could do anything, a stern voice cut through the air. "That's quite enough." A tall, elegantly furred creature that Zara would later learn was an Felida instructor had materialized beside the Draconians. "This behavior is unacceptable. Report to the disciplinary office immediately." The Draconians grumbled but complied, shooting venomous glares at the amorphon as they left. Zara watched as the instructor gently spoke to the gelatinous alien, which gradually regained its shape. As the orientation continued, Zara found her mind wandering. She'd come to Galactic Academy to learn, to broaden her horizons, but it seemed she'd have to navigate more than just cultural differences and advanced xenobiology. The incident with the Amorphons stuck with her, a reminder that even in this bastion of interstellar cooperation, old prejudices and cruelty could flourish. The rest of the day passed in a blur of information overload. Zara received her room assignment, a shared quarters with 3 other species she couldn't even pronounce the names of yet. She was given a personal holo tablet, preloaded with her class schedule, campus maps, and a dizzying array of rules and regulations. As evening approached, Zara found herself wandering the Academy's sprawling arboretum. The massive biodome housed plant life from hundreds of worlds, creating a tapestry of colors and scents unlike anything she'd ever experienced. She paused by a fountain, marveling at the way the water flowed in spirals that seemed to defy gravity. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" a soft voice said beside her. Zara turned to see the Amorphon from the orientation. Up close, she could see swirling patterns of bioluminescence pulsing gently within its translucent body. "Yeah, it really is," Zara replied, smiling. "I'm Zara, by the way. Are you okay? Those draconians were pretty rough earlier." The Amorphon's body rippled in what Zara guessed was the equivalent of a shrug. "I am Zix, and yes, I am undamaged. It is not uncommon, such treatment, but I appreciate your concern." Zara felt that familiar anger rising again. "It's not right," she said firmly. "No one deserves to be treated like that." Zix's bioluminescent patterns flickered rapidly. "Your empathy is admirable, Zara of Earth, but it is the way of things here. The strong dominate, the weak adapt. It is the cosmic order." "Maybe," Zara said, a determined glint in her eye. "But where I come from, we believe in changing things that aren't right. And I didn't travel halfway across the galaxy to sit back and watch bullies get away with hurting others." As they continued to talk, Zara learned more about life at the Academy from Zix's perspective. The Amorphon was brilliant, already taking advanced classes in quantum mechanics and hyperspatial engineering. But social interactions were challenging, especially with more aggressive species like the draconians. As the artificial day cycle began to dim, signaling evening in the station, Zara bid farewell to Zix and headed to her assigned quarters. Her mind was buzzing with everything she'd seen and learned. The wonders of Galactic Academy were beyond her wildest dreams, but so too were some of its challenges. Lying in her bunk that night, listening to the soft breathing and occasional alien sounds of her roommates, Zara made a silent promise to herself. She would excel in her studies, yes, but she would also stand up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. If the cosmic order allowed bullies to thrive, then maybe it was time for a little earthly chaos to shake things up. Little did Zara know, her actions in the coming days would set in motion events that would change not just Galactic Academy, but the very fabric of interstellar society. The human girl from Earth was about to show the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is a single person willing to stand up for what's right. As Zara drifted off to sleep, the stars outside her window seemed to twinkle with possibility. Tomorrow would bring new classes, new challenges, and the first steps on a journey that would test her courage, compassion, and the very essence of what it means to be human in a vast and complex universe. The Defender. The first week at Galactic Academy flew by in a whirlwind of new experiences for Zara. Each class was a mind-bending adventure, from xenobiology, where she dissected a creature with 7 hearts, to astroengineering, where she learned to manipulate gravity fields. Despite the academic challenges, Zara found herself thriving, her natural curiosity and determination serving her well. However, beneath the surface of cutting-edge education, a darker current ran through the academy. Zara couldn't help but notice the way certain species were treated by others. The draconians weren't the only bullies. There seemed to be a hierarchy based on physical strength or technological advancement of home worlds. It was during her interspecies ethics class that things came to a head. Professor Lix, a towering arborean with bark-like skin etched with glowing symbols, was leading a discussion on the prime directive of non-interference. The question we must ask ourselves, Professor Lix's resonant voice filled the classroom, is when, if ever, is it ethical to intervene in the affairs of another species or culture? Zara's hand shot up, unable to contain herself. But, Professor, what about when we witness clear injustice or cruelty? Surely we have a moral obligation to help those who are suffering, regardless of species. A derisive snort came from the back of the class. Krex, one of the draconian students, leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. Typical human sentiment. The galaxy doesn't run on feelings, Earther. It's survival of the fittest. Always has been, always will be. Before the professor could intervene, another voice chimed in. I agree with Zara. All eyes turned to see Zix, the Amorphon, quivering slightly but holding their ground. Advancement shouldn't come at the cost of compassion. Krex's scales bristled, a low growl emanating from his throat. No one asked you, Blob. Why don't you ooze back to your own planet if you can't handle the real world? That's enough. Professor Lick's voice boomed, but the damage was done. Zix's bioluminescent patterns dimmed, their body shrinking in on itself. As class ended, Zara watched Krex and his draconian friends shoulder past Zix, nearly knocking the Amorphon over. Something inside her snapped. She'd seen enough. Hey, Zara called out, striding towards the group. What's your problem? Does pushing others around make you feel strong? Krex turned, towering over Zara. His friends formed a menacing semicircle around her. Stay out of this, human. This doesn't concern you. Zara stood her ground, heart pounding but voice steady. It concerns all of us. We're here to learn and grow, not to bully and intimidate. You want to be seen as strong. Try using that strength to lift others up instead of pushing them down. For a moment, tension crackled in the air. Krex's claws flexed, and Zara wondered if she'd pushed too far. Then, unexpectedly, a melodious voice cut through the silence. She's right, you know. Kix, the furry Procyon Zara had met during orientation, stepped up beside her. There's no honor in this behavior. One by one, other students began to gather around Zara and Zix. A willowy lumine, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing with determination. A stocky graviton, its dense body humming with barely contained energy. Even a young cephalon, its tentacles writhing with nervous energy, but eyes fixed firmly on the draconians. Krex looked around, suddenly realizing he was outnumbered. With a final snarl, he and his friends stomped off, but not before hissing, "This isn't over, Earther." As the crowd dispersed, Zara turned to Zix. "Are you okay?" The Amorphon's colors swirled with a mix of emotions. Yes. Thank you, Zara of Earth. No one has ever stood up for me like that before." Kix bounced on his toes, fur bristling with excitement. "That was amazing. I've never seen anyone stand up to the draconians like that." "It's not about standing up to them," Zara said, a determined glint in her eye. "It's about standing up for what's right. And I have a feeling we're not the only ones who feel this way." Over the next few days, word of the confrontation spread through the academy. Zara found herself at the center of attention, with students from various species approaching her to share their own experiences with bullying and discrimination. It was during one of these conversations, huddled in a quiet corner of the arboretum, that the idea first took shape. Zara, Zix, Kix, and a handful of other students from different species were discussing the pervasive nature of the problem. The issue, Zix's voice rippled with frustration, is that many species see asking for help as a sign of weakness. It goes against their cultural norms. The Lumine, who had introduced herself as Lyra, pulsed with agreement, and others fear retaliation if they speak out. The Draconians have influential families. Zara listened, her mind racing. "What if," she said slowly, "we created a support network? A way for students to help each other anonymously, to stand up against bullying without fear of repercussion." Kix's eyes widened, like a secret society. Not secret, Zara shook her head. Open, but protected. A place where anyone can come for help, or to offer help. We could call it the Cosmic Alliance. The idea took root, growing and evolving as they discussed it. They would use encrypted communication channels, set up safe meeting spaces, and create a system where students could report incidents without fear. But more than that, they would work to promote understanding between species, to break down the barriers that led to prejudice and fear. As they planned, Zara felt a surge of hope. This was why she had come to Galactic Academy, not just to learn about the universe, but to make it a better place. However, their activities didn't go unnoticed. As the Cosmic Alliance grew, whispers of its existence reached the ears of the Academy administration. Some saw it as a positive step towards better interspecies relations. Others, particularly those from more traditionally dominant species, viewed it as a threat to the established order. Zara knew they were walking a fine line. The Alliance had to be careful not to break Academy rules while still affecting real change. It was a delicate balance, made all the more precarious by the simmering resentment from Krex and his followers. The true test came a few weeks later, during the Academy's annual Interspecies Cultural Festival. Each student group was tasked with creating a display showcasing their home world's culture. The Cosmic Alliance saw it as a perfect opportunity to promote understanding and cooperation. Their display was a marvel of collaboration. Zix's knowledge of quantum mechanics allowed them to create a holographic representation of Earth that attendees could actually step inside. Kix's artistic skills brought to life the vibrant ecosystems of multiple worlds. Lura's bioluminescent abilities were incorporated to create stunning light shows representing various cultural celebrations. As students and faculty marveled at their creation, Zara felt a swell of pride. This was what the Cosmic Alliance was all about, bringing out the best in each other, celebrating their differences while finding common ground. But as the festival was in full swing, a commotion erupted near the draconian display. Zara rushed over to find Krex and his friends confronting a group of younger students who had accidentally knocked over part of their exhibit. "You clumsy little vermin," Krex snarled, looming over a trembling young graviton. "You've ruined everything." Without hesitation, Zara stepped between them. "It was an accident, Krex. They didn't mean any harm." Krex's eyes blazed with fury. "You again, Earther. Always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Let me make this clear. Your little alliance doesn't change anything. The strong will always dominate the weak. It's the way of the universe." Zara stood her ground, even as she noticed a crowd gathering around them. "No, Krex. The way of the universe is adaptation, cooperation. Look around you. Every species here has survived and thrived because they learn to work together, not tear each other apart." She gestured to the Cosmic Alliance's display. "We're stronger together than we ever could be alone. Your strength? It's nothing compared to what we can accomplish when we unite." For a moment, the two stood locked in a battle of wills. Then, slowly, other members of the Cosmic Alliance began to step forward, forming a protective circle around the younger students. Krex looked around, seeing not fear in the eyes of those gathered, but determination. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. "This isn't over," he growled, but the threat in his voice had lost its edge. As he and his friends skulked away, a cheer went up from the crowd. In that moment, Zara realized they had reached a turning point. The Cosmic Alliance was no longer just a support group. It had become a movement, a call for change that was resonating throughout the Academy. As the festival continued around them, Zara huddled with her friends. They had won a significant victory, but she knew it was only the beginning. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles and resistance from those who feared change. But looking at the diverse group gathered around her, each bringing their own unique strengths and perspectives, Zara felt a surge of confidence. Together, they would face whatever came next. They would show the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in dominating others, but in bringing out the best in everyone. The Cosmic Alliance was just getting started, and the universe would never be the same. The Alliance. In the weeks following the Interspecies Cultural Festival, the Cosmic Alliance grew exponentially. What had started as a small group of friends standing up against bullying had blossomed into a movement that touched every corner of Galactic Academy. Students from species that had never interacted before were now working side by side, learning from each other and forming bonds that transcended their biological differences. Zara found herself at the center of it all, a position she hadn't sought but couldn't shy away from. Her days were a whirlwind of classes, alliance meetings, and mediating disputes between species. It was exhausting, exhilarating work. One particularly busy afternoon, Zara was huddled with the core members of the Alliance in their unofficial headquarters, a forgotten storage room they converted into a cozy meeting space. The walls were covered in holographic displays showing ongoing projects and issues that needed addressing. "We've made great progress," Zix bubbled, their gelatinous form rippling with excitement. Reported incidents of interspecies bullying have decreased by 47% since the festival. Kix, perched on a stack of cushions, nodded enthusiastically. "And attendance at our cultural exchange programs has tripled." Zara smiled, feeling a warmth of pride for what they'd accomplished. But her smile faded as she looked at the next item on their agenda. "We still have a problem with the Draconians," she said softly. "Krex and his friends have been laying low, but I don't think they've given up." Lyra, the Luminae, pulsed with concern. "I've heard whispers that they're planning something big, something to put us in our place, as they say." A heavy silence fell over the room. They all knew that despite their successes, there was still a significant portion of the student body that resented the changes the Alliance was bringing. The old power structures were crumbling, and those who had benefited from them weren't going down without a fight. "We need to be proactive," Zara said, breaking the silence. "We can't just wait for them to make a move. We need to find a way to reach out, to show them that the Alliance isn't a threat, but an opportunity." "But how?" asked Gravex, the young graviton who had joined their core group after the festival incident. "They won't even talk to us." Zara paced the room, her mind racing. Then an idea struck her. What if we challenged them to a competition? Something that plays to their strengths, but also requires cooperation. The room buzzed with excitement as they brainstormed ideas. Finally, they settled on a plan. They would propose an interspecies survival challenge. Teams made up of members from different species would have to work together to navigate a holographically simulated hostile environment. It would require strength, strategy, and most importantly, cooperation. The next day, Zara approached Krex and his group in the Academy's central atrium. A hush fell over the crowded space as students realized what was happening. "Krex," Zara said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I have a proposition for you and your friends." The Draconian's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What kind of proposition, Earther?" Zara outlined the challenge, watching as interest sparked in Krex's eyes. She could see the wheels turning in his head. This was a chance to prove their superiority, to show everyone that the Draconians were still on top. "And what do we get when we win?" Krex asked, a smirk playing on his scaled face. "If you win," Zara emphasized the if, "the Alliance will publicly acknowledge the strength and value of Draconian culture. But if we win, you and your friends join the Alliance for a month, participate in our programs, see what we're really about." Krex hesitated, but Zara could see the challenge had hooked him. His pride wouldn't let him back down, especially not in front of the gathered crowd. "Fine," he growled. "You're on, Earther. Prepare to be humbled." As Krex and his friends stalked away, Zara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Phase 1 was complete, but the real challenge was just beginning. The next few weeks were a flurry of activity as both sides prepared for the challenge. The Alliance team, led by Zara, was a diverse group that included Zix, Kix, Lyra, and Grav-X, each bringing unique abilities to the table. They spent every spare moment training, learning to complement each other's strengths and compensate for weaknesses. The day of the challenge arrived, and the entire academy turned out to watch. The holodeck had been transformed into a harsh alien landscape, with treacherous terrain and simulated environmental hazards. Both teams stood at the starting line, the tension palpable. As the challenge began, it quickly became clear that this would be no easy victory for either side. The Draconians were indeed formidable, their physical strength and natural aggression serving them well in the hostile environment. But the Alliance team's diversity proved to be a powerful asset. Zig's ability to change shape allowed them to scout ahead safely. Kix's agility and keen senses helped navigate tricky terrain. Lyra's bioluminescence provided light in dark caverns. Grav X's control over gravity came in handy for moving obstacles, and Zora's quick thinking and leadership kept them working as a cohesive unit. The challenge culminated in a final obstacle, a chasm that needed to be crossed. The Draconian team attempted to brute force their way across, with the strongest members trying to leap the gap while carrying the others. It was a risky strategy that nearly ended in disaster. The Alliance team, on the other hand, worked together seamlessly. Grav X manipulated the gravity to make them lighter, Zix formed a flexible bridge, Lyra lit the way, Kix secured their path, and Zara coordinated it all. They crossed safely, securing their victory moments before the Draconians. As the holodeck faded back to its neutral state, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then, the watching crowd erupted in cheers. The Alliance had won, but more than that, they had demonstrated the power of cooperation and diversity in a way that no one could ignore. Krex stood at the edge of the chasm, his chest heaving, a mix of emotions playing across his face. Zara approached him cautiously, unsure of how he would react. "That was impressive," Krex said finally, his voice gruff but lacking its usual hostility. "I've never seen anything like it." Zara offered a small smile. "That's what the Alliance is all about, Krex. It's not about being the strongest individual, but about being strong together. Everyone has something valuable to offer." Krex was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "A deal's a deal, Earther. We'll join your alliance for a month, but don't expect us to start holding hands and singing Kumbaya." Zara laughed, relief and joy bubbling up inside her. "Wouldn't dream of it, but I think you might be surprised by what you learn." As they left the holodeck, Zara was swarmed by her friends, all talking excitedly about their victory. But her eyes were drawn to Headmaster Zilvax, who stood watching from the sidelines. The enigmatic being's galaxy-filled eyes seemed to twinkle with approval, and Zara felt a surge of pride. They had won more than just a competition today. They had taken a significant step towards changing the culture of Galactic Academy, and perhaps the future of interstellar relations. But as Zara celebrated with her friends, a small part of her remained cautious. They had made progress, yes, but there were still those who resisted change. And somewhere out there in the vast galaxy, forces were at work that would soon test the Alliance in ways they couldn't imagine. For now, though, Zara allowed herself to bask in the victory. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but they would face them together as a united cosmic alliance. The confrontation. As the weeks passed, the Cosmic Alliance continued to grow and evolve. True to their word, Krex and his Draconian friends participated in Alliance activities, albeit with initial reluctance. To everyone's surprise, including their own, they began to find value in the diverse perspectives and abilities of other species. Zara watched with pride as Krex, once the epitome of Draconian aggression, started to show a different side. During a xenobiology study session, she overheard him patiently explaining Draconian physiology to a group of fascinated first-year students from various species. However, not everything was smooth sailing. As the Alliance's influence grew, so did the whispers of discontent from those who saw the changing status quo as a threat. Zara began to notice furtive glances and hushed conversations that would stop abruptly when she approached. One evening, as Zara was leaving the library after a late-night study session, she felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. Trusting her instincts, she ducked into an alcove just as a group of shadowy figures passed by. "The Alliance has gone too far," a voice hissed. "They're upsetting the natural order. It's time we put them in their place. Zora's heart raced as she recognized the speaker, Vexler, a senior student from a species known for their conservative views and resistance to change. She listened intently as the group discussed plans for sabotaging upcoming Alliance events and intimidating its members. As soon as they were gone, Zora rushed to gather the core members of the Alliance. In the safety of their headquarters, she relayed what she had overheard. "This is serious," Zix bubbled anxiously, their form rippling with concern. "If they succeed in disrupting our events, it could undo all the progress we've made." Kix's fur stood on end. "We should report this to the administration." Zora shook her head. "We don't have any proof. It would be our word against theirs, and some of the faculty still aren't fully supportive of the Alliance." "Then what do we do?" Lyra pulsed, her bioluminescence dimming with worry. Zora paced the room, her mind racing. "We need to be prepared. We'll increase security at our events, set up buddy systems so no one walks alone, and most importantly, we need to show everyone that we won't be intimidated." The group nodded in agreement, determination replacing fear in their eyes. As they began to plan, a knock at the door made them all jump. To their surprise, Krex entered, his expression uncharacteristically serious. "I heard about the threat," he said, his voice low. "Some of my old crew, they've been approached by Vexelo's group. They wanted muscle for their operation." Zora's eyes widened. "Krex, thank you for telling us. But why? I thought you'd be happy to see the Alliance taken down a peg." Krex shifted uncomfortably. I've learned things being part of this group, things I never thought I'd say. But you're making a difference. A good one. And I won't stand by and watch it be destroyed by fear and ignorance." A wave of emotion washed over Zora. This, more than anything, proved that their efforts were working. "Will you help us then?" she asked. Krex nodded, a fierce glint in his eye. "The Draconians stand with the Alliance. Let Vexelor and his cronies try something. They'll learn what real strength is." With Krex and the Draconians on board, the Alliance's defenses were bolstered, but Vexelor's group was crafty. Small incidents began to occur, equipment malfunctions during presentations, anonymous messages spreading misinformation about Alliance activities, and even a few cases of members being cornered and threatened. The tension on campus was palpable. Students walked in groups, looking over their shoulders. The once vibrant exchange of ideas in classes became muted, as everyone grew wary of speaking out. It all came to a head during the Alliance's biggest event yet, a multi-species cultural festival aimed at celebrating diversity and promoting understanding. As students and faculty gathered in the grand hall, the air was thick with anticipation and unease. Zora took the stage, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Welcome, everyone, to the Cosmic Alliance's celebration of diversity. Today, we come together not as separate species, but as one united galactic community." As she spoke, Zora noticed movement at the edges of the crowd. Vexelor and his followers were positioning themselves strategically around the room. She caught Krex's eye, and he nodded, silently signaling that he and the other Alliance members were ready. Just as Zora was introducing the first performance, a hauntingly beautiful song performed by a trio of luminae, chaos erupted. The lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Shouts and screams filled the air as confusion turned to panic. "Now," Vexelor's voice cut through the din, "show them the price of disrupting the natural order." But the Alliance was prepared. Lyra and the other luminae immediately lit up, their bioluminescence casting a soft glow over the room. Grav X and his fellow gravitons used their abilities to steady those who were being jostled in the crowd. Zix and the Amorphons formed living barriers, protecting the younger and more vulnerable students. Zora's voice rang out, amplified by tech Kix had rigged up. "Everyone, remain calm. This is exactly what they want, to sow fear and division. But we are stronger than that. We are united." As she spoke, Krex and the Draconians moved swiftly, intercepting Vexelor's enforcers before they could do any real damage. The sight of the once feared bullies now protecting others sent a powerful message. Vexilo, realizing his plan was falling apart, made a desperate lunge for the stage. "This ends now, human," he snarled, reaching for Zara. But he never made it. In a move that surprised everyone, including herself, Zara sidestepped his attack and used his own momentum to flip him onto his back. As Vexilo lay stunned, Zara stood over him, her voice ringing with authority. "No, Vexilo, this is just the beginning. Look around you. See how every species here work together in the face of adversity. This is the future, not division and fear, but unity and strength through diversity." The lights flickered back to life, revealing the scene to all. Vexlo's followers, seeing their leader defeated and the united front of the Alliance, began to back down. Some even looked ashamed, realizing the gravity of what they had almost done. As campus security arrived to take control of the situation, a slow applause began to build. It started with a few claps and grew into a thunderous ovation. Students and faculty alike were on their feet, cheering not just for Zara, but for the idea of unity she represented. In the aftermath of what would come to be known as the Night of Lights, the atmosphere at Galactic Academy changed dramatically. The administration, finally forced to acknowledge the positive impact of the Cosmic Alliance, threw their full support behind its initiatives. Vexilo and the ringleaders of his group faced disciplinary action, but Zara advocated for a restorative justice approach. Instead of expulsion, they would work with the Alliance, learning firsthand about the cultures and species they had once feared and hated. As Zara stood with her friends, watching the festival resume with even greater enthusiasm than before, she felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything she had ever experienced. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged stronger for it. But even as they celebrated, Zara knew that their work was far from over. They had changed Galactic Academy, yes, but there was an entire universe out there, filled with prejudice and misunderstanding. The real challenge, and their greatest adventure, was just beginning. As the festivities continued around them, Zara and her diverse group of friends shared a look of determination. Whatever the galaxy had in store for them, they would face it together as a united cosmic alliance.